All right. Welcome to the Ask Dr. Khan show. Thank you so much for joining me. And we are broadcasting live and having some tech trouble initially, but we are live now. Thank you for joining us. And this is the relaunch of the Ask Dr. Khan show. Now, just as a background, I ran this show for about 3 to 4 years every week. And through that process, the show got really popular because we were giving out really pertinent functional medicine information to help people to overcome their chronic health problems. And in the past 3 years, I've taken a hiatus and started to create master classes and digital programs to really help people to really dive in to their main health issues. So now we're back. We're back to relaunch the Ask Dr. Khan show so that we can reach out to more people. Now, I've learned quite a bit in the last 3 years about how to actually teach people the concepts of root cause medicine and functional medicine. You see, there's a step-by-step roadmap so that you can focus on doing the right thing for you right now and not get sidetracked by 20 different things that you read on YouTube, 20 different things that you see on research on Google that's confusing you. See, a lot of people, they are doing the right things for the right problem. They're just doing it in the wrong order. So in this episode, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what that means to you. And I'm going to talk about the 3 most common causes of fatigue, right? For a lot of people, energy is a big problem, especially people with chronic health issues. Having chronic fatigue can really detract and take away from you living your purpose and living to your potential and really just enjoying life. So we're going to talk about the 3 most common causes of fatigue that many people are perhaps not getting to the root cause or not addressing their primary issue. Instead, again, going after 20 different, side things and not focusing on the main thing. Okay. So with that said, let's get this started. And at the end, I'll see if I can learn how to open this up to a Q&A. This is my first time coming back after 3 years. There's a lot of tech things that I'm trying to figure out. So be patient with me. If I don't figure out today how to do a live Q&A, we will do it on the next time that we run the show, which we will be redoing this show on a regular basis, at least weekly, if not twice per week. So let me click a button here, and we may have to mute. All right, turn the volume down a little bit so I don't hear myself. Let's see how that works. Okay, so now the very first thing you gotta realize is that for most people with chronic symptoms, see, if you have a symptom and you've been trying to do things to help with that symptom, but you're not getting any results. See, that's a key word. A lot of people, they're doing a lot of different things. They're changing their diets, they're taking supplements, they're doing, coffee enemas, infrared sauna, whatever you're doing. They may all sound like it's the right thing to do. However, if you're not getting the results, then it tells you that perhaps either that's not the right thing to do, or you're not addressing the root cause, or that's not the right thing to do at this moment in time. And that's a big key because, for somebody, taking certain nutritional supplements, it may be the appropriate supplement to take, but maybe it's not the right order of things to do. So the example that I always give is the concept of medical triage. Let's just say you see somebody laying on the side of the road unconscious, serious problem. So you rush up to this person trying to give help. And as we learned in CPR, the first thing you do is you assess the ABCs, right? What's ABC? Airway, breathing, and circulation. So you come up with this person who's unconscious, and you check the breathing, and you check the heart rate, and you notice that this person is not breathing, has a heart rate. Okay, so not breathing. And you also notice this person has a broken leg. What is the first thing that you attend to with this person? Is it the breathing problem or the broken leg? Well, obviously, right, we want to address the most life-threatening thing or the most urgent thing for that person at this moment, which is the breathing problem, right? Now, the broken leg is still serious, but it's not something you need to handle right at that moment. So this is the concept of doing the first things first. And there's so many people out there with chronic health conditions that I work with on a daily basis. They come to me after they already seen 5, 10 different practitioners. They try the latest diets, take the greatest supplements, and they're still not getting results. And there's a reason for that. And the reason could be that they never even address the root cause, the primary reason why they have problem. Or the reason could be that they just use the wrong tool, but the right problem, right? They found the problem, but they're using the wrong things to help with that. Or thirdly, as the example that I just gave, is that they're doing the right things, but in the wrong order, right? We want to attend to the not breathing problem first and broken leg second, even though both of them need to be addressed at some point. And so it goes with chronic conditions. Okay, if you have chronic fatigue, chronic brain fog, chronic digestive issues, chronic thyroid conditions, chronic hormonal problems, chronic gut problems, SIBO, candida, whatever it is that you're trying to fix, the key word is to ask, are you getting anywhere, right? If you're getting results, then great, then you're on the right track. But even results, what you have to ask is the result satisfactory, right? Some people, they do certain interventions and maybe they get 10% progress, 10% traction. Well, 10% is a start, right? Usually when we do some type of intervention with someone with chronic conditions, we're not expecting them to get better overnight. Although overnight success and miracles do happen, we have our share of successes in our client testimonial database. However, for most people with chronic conditions, it's a matter of winding down these chronic inflammatory patterns and also to give the body a chance to heal, right? If you have a cut skin, no matter what Band-Aid and Neosporin you put on it, the skin is going to take time to heal, right? Same thing in the body. So again, typically it's a gradual process of noticing improvement. And it may start with 10%, 15%, 20% improvement within the first month or two. And for someone who's had symptoms for years, that may be a really great start. But if you've been doing the same diet, supplement, treatment regimen for, say, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then you're still stuck at the same 10, 20% improvement, then we got to talk, right? There's something else that's going on that you need to identify so that you're not just stuck on the hamster wheel and then being told that, healing takes time. You just got to stick with it. Okay, 3 years later, you're still doing the parasite cleanse. 3 years later, you're still doing candida cleanse. 3 years later, you're still having SIBO that's not cleared up. Well, that's not good enough. Okay, you should expect more than that. You should expect gradual process, and you should expect yourself to every intervention that you do, you know why you're doing it, and you can monitor the progress, whether that's helping you. And that's the key. Okay. And it's going to circle back to the concept of doing the first things first, or a roadmap, right? A roadmap means if you're trying to get from LA to New York, there's these, places that you're going to pass by on the way from LA to New York, right? And now you can take a scenic route, you can, do different type of waypoints, but eventually you're going to have to go from west going east, right? Northeast to get from LA to New York. So that's for sure, right? So this roadmap is a way to guide you so you can get from LA to New York in the most efficient way. And many people are navigating the chronic conditions without a roadmap. They're kind of just doing, hey, I'm trying to get from LA to New York, but let's just go to Orlando first. And we're going to go to Orlando by way of Montana. And so you're just going all over the place, wasting gas, wasting time, wasting money, and having a lot of frustrations. So with chronic condition, we want to be efficient. And being efficient means you got to know what you're dealing with. Okay? And that's where the roadmap comes in, because it tells you what is the first problem you need to address, what's a second problem you need to address, and what's a third problem you need to address. And that way you have patience. Right? If you know that, hey, we got to get from LA to New Mexico first, on the way to New York, then you're patient. Like, you might be saying, are we there yet? Are we in New Mexico yet? Are we in New Mexico yet? But until you get to New Mexico, you're not gonna, right? You're not gonna get to New York without passing through any of the states in between. So you're patient until you get to that objective. And once you get to that objective, you can say, okay, what's my next stop? And then so you're patient, right? You're not rushing and wondering why you're not there yet. Well, you're not there yet because you got 1,000 miles to drive. You're only 100 miles into 1,000 mile journey. So then you're patient, right? A lot of people's like, well, I've been driving for a day. How come I haven't covered 1,000 miles? Well, you only been driving for a day. Driving in a car with speed limits, you can't expect yourself to cover 1,000 mile in one day. So again, this gives you kind of zoom out and see the forest for the trees and be able to see the lay of the land and see where you are on that progress so that you don't get frustrated, you don't get impatient, and therefore you have peace and you're not stressed out. A lot of people with chronic conditions, they're simply stressed out. They're stressed out because life is stressful, right? In this age of, COVID and the world the way it is, there's a lot of stress inducing, exposures that we get from, not just environmental toxins, but also media and just stress. But then you add on top of the fact that someone with a chronic condition that's not getting better, then that creates stress in and of itself. And then if you start to take this person who have a chronic condition, maybe you who is watching, and you start to search on the internet looking for answers because you're proactive and rightly so. I applaud you for that. You're looking for answers, so you're latching on to whatever answer Google is feeding you, and then you're doing too many things all at one time without using a roadmap or doing the first things first. And therefore you're getting distracted and you're looking for that quick result, but you don't have this patience because you don't know how to navigate this. That creates stress because you think you're supposed to be there already, and nobody's ever taught you how to navigate this in a step-by-step manner. Okay, so hopefully that helps you to kind of understand and set the stage for what is it that I do to help with chronic conditions patients, and then that you have hope. There are things that you can do to get better, but it starts with strategy, being strategic about it, right? Instead of just doing everything that you see that sounds good, being strategic. And this is what I'm going to offer you in our time together in this channel, is that I'm going to help you to frame better questions, because the quality of your questions is going to determine the quality of your results. Let me repeat that. The quality of your questions is going to determine the quality of your result. If you ask a low-level, poor question, you're going to get to a poor result. You might get the right answer to a wrong question or a right answer to a low-quality question and get the answer to that particular question, but that answer may not serve you. For example, if somebody says, hey, Dr. Khan, I have a thyroid condition. What's a good supplement for the thyroid? Well, that's a low-level question. Why is that a low-level question? Well, asking me what supplement to take for the thyroid tells me or you nothing about the root cause of the thyroid condition. Because the reality is that there can be many, many, many root causes that can cause thyroid condition. So asking me or anyone, what's the good supplement for the thyroid? It's a low-level question. It might even be the wrong question. I might go as far to say that, because it's telling you nothing about what's causing the thyroid condition. Therefore, if you don't know what's causing it, how would you know what to do for it? Okay? And we'll talk more about that in future episode of where that mindset comes from, of asking, hey, what's a supplement for this condition? I mean, it's really a mindset of like a quick fix, but I think it's been kind of drilled into us or brainwashed into us over many, many decades through media, through, the pharmaceutical industry, right? There's always a pill for ill. And we'll talk in future episode, because that's something we need to teach you how to see through, so you can see through it on advertisements, on media, and you can see through it even in yourself if you fall into that trap of fallacy of logic, because asking the wrong questions or low-level questions will not get you there. And it is my hope in the show that we can help you to ask better questions and ask questions that's going to get you to better understanding of what you need to do so that you get better results. Now, let's get into the topic that I promised that we're going to cover today, which is the 3 most common reasons why you may be struggling with a chronic fatigue. Okay. Now, fatigue, first of all, you must know that it's a symptom that you experience primarily in your brain. Let me repeat that. Fatigue is a brain symptom because you don't experience fatigue in your buttock. You don't experience fatigue in your bicep. If you have weakness, that's different than fatigue, right? Because say you have a pinched nerve of C5, C6, the nerve that innervates bicep muscle, or you have a nerve that's severed that innervates a bicep muscle, then you may have weakness or paralysis of the bicep muscle. But having weakness or paralysis in a bicep muscle does not necessarily make you feel tired, right? So feeling fatigue is a brain symptom. So then we have to ask, what are some of the things that can cause the brain symptom of fatigue, low endurance with brain function? Right? So one of the most common cause is actually oxygenation problems. So we call this perfusion problems. Okay? Perfusion problem means that you cannot get blood to your brain, and therefore if you can't get blood to your brain, then you're going to have low oxygenation states. Okay? But low oxygenation states to the brain can occur through either a perfusion problem or anemia. Those are the 2 primary ways. Perfusion is more of a circulatory type of problem, right? Perfusion is speaking to how well you would get blood to your tissue, in this case, the brain, or anywhere in the body for that matter. If you can't get blood flow to the tissue, then the tissue doesn't get nourished with nutrients and oxygen, then that tissue is going to suffer. And this is one of the reasons why someone may experience fatigue. Now, how would you know you have perfusion problems? Well, there's various symptoms and the signs that you can look for. And these are things that we teach in our Neurometabolic Innovation Digital Program, which is a coaching program that our clients go through, our learners go through to learn how to self-assess and really understand this at a very high level so you can start to advocate for yourself, right? You can start to become your own doctor. And that's important because then you don't become reliant. That doesn't mean you go through our program, you don't need a doctor anymore. It just means that you can start to speak for yourself. You can start to ask doctor better questions so you get the right treatment. So perfusion problem, again, can come, or oxygenation problems can lead to fatigue. And oxygenation problem can come in the form of perfusion issue or anemia. The second most common reason why someone may have fatigue will be a blood sugar dysfunction. Now, why is that important? Again, going back to fatigue, what is the nature of fatigue? The nature of fatigue is that it's a brain symptom. So what is the brain's preferred source of fuel? Well, the brain's preferred source of fuel is oxygen and glucose, right? Without oxygen, 4 or 5 minutes, your brain tissue will die off and then you will not get that back. You can be brain dead, even though if your heart's still pumping. So brain is very, oxygen is mission critical for brain function, and so is glucose. Glucose is the preferred source of fuel for the brain. And how do you get glucose? Well, from the nutrients that you eat. When you consume carbohydrates, and even proteins can be broken down into glucose. So you must eat food, and in addition to dietary intake, you must have proper blood sugar control. Now, blood sugar control is controlled by various hormones, some of which includes cortisol, glucagon, insulin, and various other types of hormones that regulate and control blood sugar in a very tightly regulated manner, meaning your brain is so dependent on glucose function that your body is designed with multiple hormones and multiple regulatory mechanisms to keep that blood sugar in a very tight range. Anything outside of that tight optimal zone of blood sugar level, your brain does not do well. And therefore, blood sugar problems is one of the most insidious causes of fatigue. And in future episodes, we're going to dive deeper into blood sugar problems and what different ways they can manifest and how to actually self-identify. And what are things you can do about it. The third thing that can cause fatigue is inflammation. Now, inflammation is a very broad term that really describes what the immune system is trying to do. And specifically, inflammation is an immune system response that's actually aimed to protect you. Inflammation is the tool with which your immune system uses to kill pathogens. So inflammation is not bad. It just is. It's a natural process, right? If you have an infection, then inflammation is what you want. It's good. But if that inflammation is chronic and doesn't shut off, then you're going to have a problem because that chronic inflammation is going to lead to tissue damage. And now you're going to start to have more systemic issues. Now, inflammation can cause fatigue, but the primary reason is that it drives an inflammatory response in the body that tend to be a vicious cycle. You see, the more inflammation you have, the more inflammation it tends to promote. And this inflammation can actually cross the blood-brain barrier and then cause brain inflammation, which can lead to the symptom of fatigue. And also the inflammation systemically can also cause tissue damage and damage a cellular organelle called mitochondria, which is a cellular organelle that produces ATP and energy. And when you have systemic issues of inflammation that damages enough tissue and enough mitochondria, then you're going to start to run into energy deficits. And this is also another reason of fatigue. So we listed three primary or three most common, right? Different people may have different reasons for the fatigue. Some people may have fatigue. That's not one of those three things that I listed, but those are the most common one that I see in my chronic conditions practice. Number one is an oxygenation problem. This can be perfusion, which is a circulatory problem, or anemia. Secondly, it's a blood sugar dysfunction, which can compromise metabolism and energy usage by the brain. And third is inflammation, which can cause tissue damage, lead to mitochondrial failure, therefore decrease energy production, and also it can cause inflammation in the brain itself. So those are the three primary ways, or three most common ways that you can have fatigue. They're often overlooked in conventional and natural alternative medicine. So in future episodes, we're going to have more detailed information and teachings that'll help you to understand what each of these patterns mean, how to understand some common patterns, and what are some of the simple things that you can do. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me. Let me see if I can see some questions. Oh, look at that. I do see some chats coming through. So thank you for those of you who are watching this live and submitting some chats. So we have Janet, I assume from Ontario, from Eastern Ontario. Janet, welcome to the show. And okay, so we have a few people wondering when the show begins, and we're about 5 minutes late today. So I apologize because of some tech issues, but we'll get this figured out. Let's see here. Let's see if I need to sign in. Nope. I think that's all I can do from that side. Let me see if I can see the chats from another spot. Looks like that's all I got here because I cannot seem to, oh, here we go. Awesome. Okay, I am seeing the chat now. So let's answer some of these questions. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me live. I have a question from Dennis. Why do some smokers live well into their 90s? That's a great question. So, you know, a common question is always, why do some people live the way they live? They eat whatever they eat and they're just fine. And other people, they seem to eat pretty healthy, relatively healthy, and they're still not doing very well. And the reasons, because in research it's pretty clear now that for most chronic conditions, that we have two factors at play here. We have genetics, and then we have the environment. Okay, now genetics obviously just, you know, the genes that you inherited, and these genes that you inherit, you basically inherit certain functions, and some of these functions may be antioxidant functions. Some of these functions may be relating to how well a certain enzyme functions to help you to produce certain chemical that will dampen inflammation. So there's a genetic factor which you can't change. You cannot change, right? And then there's the environmental exposure. And keep in mind, when we say environmental exposure, most people think about environment as far as what they're exposed to right this second. But I want you guys to think about environmental exposure from the perspective of what you've been exposed from the time that you were born, right? This is called the exposome. The exposome is a geeky term for the total amount of toxic exposure that you have been exposed to your entire life, because it's a cumulative exposure. It's a cumulative exposure and has a cumulative effect on you. And in research, it's also pretty clear that this exposure can extend to even prenatal. What is mom toxic to begin with? And some of these cytokines and toxins can actually pass to the infant. So there's genetics and there's environment. So the way that you want to look at this is that the gene cocks the gun, loads the gun. The environment pulls the trigger. Okay? So in someone who has good genes, they may be able to get away with it more, but ultimately it all gets us in some way, right? There's no free lunch. And then for other people, they may be doing a good diet, but maybe genetically they're somewhat compromised. But what I can tell you for sure is that always you have a role to play in it. The role you can play is to do your best with diet, nutrition, exercise, mindset, environmental exposure, detoxification. These lifestyle practices is really what's going to set up the stage so that as you age, you have less of a problem, right? Because as we age, we know our antioxidant systems start to go away, our immune systems start to become weaker, our muscle system start to become weaker, our digestive system become weaker. So then even if you don't have problem in your 30s, 40s, 50s, but the more toxic exposure, the more inflammation that you have, the more likely you're going to develop problem in your later years. So always plan for the future by investing in your health now. The next question is from Mathangi. Hello, sir. I really love your show on how to improve frontal lobe function. Thank you so much. Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. That's one of our most watched videos. I get so many comments on that frontal lobe function video. Again, you can go to my channel and look for the how to improve frontal lobe function video. In the future, I'll have more videos that will directly speak to brain function and help you guys understand more of that. Mathangi says, hoping you continue to post more. Yep, we will definitely do that. And this is part of my effort to provide low cost or free information to help you guys to solve your health problems. And then for those of you who are interested in going deeper with me, we have courses and training that will help you to further take you further on the journey. Dennis asked, Dr. Khan, what is your opinion of British osteopath? They use a drug-free approach to healthcare that includes manual therapy and functional biochemistry. I don't have any opinion on British osteopathy. I'm not familiar with British osteopathy. It sounds like if it's a drug-free approach using manual therapy and functional biochemistry, it sounds very similar to what chiropractors are doing in the United States. Many chiropractors perform manual adjustments as well as help people with nutrition and lifestyle. So this has, a lot of chiropractors in the US and other functional medicine doctor do those type of things to some degree. Journey with me to better health. Okay. How prevalent is Epstein-Barr in some chronic health condition? I would say Epstein-Barr virus, which is a type of herpes virus, is actually very common. Now, how prevalent is it? First of all, Epstein-Barr virus is prevalent in a normal population. In some estimates, is that 90% of the population have been exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. So it's a very common virus, kind of like the common cold, right? Who haven't had a common cold, right? And once you have a common cold, what happens? Well, your immune system develops immunity to that particular strain of cold virus so that you're basically protected for the rest of your life against that virus. Same thing with Epstein-Barr. You may have had Epstein-Barr exposure as a younger person, and maybe that Epstein-Barr exposure resulted in something that looked very similar to just like a common cold, and you just got over it. So Epstein-Barr virus is not the problem. It's your immune system, how competent it is at fighting off the Epstein-Barr or keeping it in a remission state. See, once you have Epstein-Barr and some of these other herpes viruses like herpes simplex 1 and 2, the virus will stay there forever. But if your immune system is working really well, it'll keep the virus in small amount of population so that it does not act up. So the virus basically stays in a remission stage, in an inactive, latent stage. But if your immune system is compromised, such as from when you have periods of stress, or you don't get enough sleep, or you don't intake proper amount of nutrients, or you have other comorbid conditions that drive out inflammatory responses in your body that suppresses your immune system, or heavy metal toxicity that can suppress the immune system, then the Epstein-Barr virus will start to reactivate because your immune system is basically taking a nap or not on the job, allowing the virus to basically grow back. So it's not the problem with the Epstein-Barr. A lot of people are on a hunt for like, oh, I got to get rid of this Epstein-Barr. I got to kill all the virus. That is not a reasonable goal. Your goal is not to get rid of all the Epstein-Barr virus. Your goal is to make your immune system as strong and healthy as possible. And there's a lot to it, which we don't have time to go over today. We'll cover that in future episodes. But the goal is not to wipe out Epstein-Barr virus. The goal is to improve your immune function so your body can take over and contain the virus so you can have good health. Paula, 27, asks, tips of treating low iron and hemorrhoids. Well, that's a great question, and that might be a future topic, but just say a quick answer for you. Always ask, what's the cause of low iron, right? What's the cause of low iron? Right? It's low iron because someone is not eating enough iron in their diet, such as from a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet that's not done properly, right? Many people doing vegetarian diet and vegan diet simply are not, they just do it because it sounds like a good idea to them, but they don't know how to actually eat on a vegetarian and vegan diet to get enough of all the nutrients. So it's very common for vegetarians and vegans to be iron deficient. Or it could be an absorption problem, lack of stomach acid production, H. pylori infection, which can cause iron absorption issue, other chronic inflammatory conditions that can sap your iron, chronic infections, which can cause low iron states. So there's a lot of things that can cause it. So it depends on what's causing the low iron, then you would address the cause of the low iron. Now, in the meantime, could you still take iron supplements to correct a low iron state? You could, but if you just take iron supplements without correcting the root cause of the iron deficiency, then you're just going to be taking iron supplement for the rest of your life and still not fixing the root cause of the deficiency, which can actually create other symptoms in addition to low iron state. So that's why asking better questions is more important than just simply, what do I do with that? Same thing with hemorrhoids. What's causing hemorrhoids? There may be an antioxidant problem. There may be a vascular blood vessel weakness issue due to some type of inflammatory condition. There may be a liver issue where the liver is congested, causing increased portal vein pressure, therefore kind of causing the blood vessel to get higher pressure, therefore the vessel wall starts to break down and bulge out. So again, it's not, Dr. Khan, what are some supplements I can take for hemorrhoids? I mean, you can simply Google that, and Google will tell you all kinds of supplements to take for hemorrhoids. But the question is, what's causing your particular hemorrhoids? Because if you don't know what's causing it, then you don't know how to fix it. Next question is from Julie. Dr. Khan is a real deal. I trust his teaching because he used science and research to back him up. Thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate the kind words. Elizabeth Humphrey, what is the best thing someone can do to improve fatigue besides lots of water and exercise, regardless of cause? Well, Elizabeth, I think that your caveat there, regardless of cause, that's actually the most important thing, because you cannot fix fatigue regardless of cause, right? You must identify the cause, because for one person, the cause of fatigue may be low thyroid. For another person, the cause of the fatigue may be low adrenal function. And the way you will fix those two things might be completely different. So you have to find the root cause. Now, I think exercise, hydration, proper diet, those are basics, right? Like whether you have a thyroid problem or adrenal problem or cancer or fatigue, or you don't have fatigue, you just want to be healthy, right? You have no symptoms, you just want to learn how to optimize. It doesn't matter what you have. You still need to hydrate and exercise and manage stress and eat healthy, right? Those are just kind of prerequisite to get you even in the ballpark of having high function, right? We must do that regardless. It's kind of like you got to brush your teeth, whether you have a dental cavities or not. I don't care. You brush your teeth because it's the right thing to do. And if you want to have good social life and people don't, ooh, gee, right? You gotta brush your teeth, whether you have a problem with your teeth or not. Same thing. That's how I see diet and hydration and exercise. You must do it. Now, of course, some people may need to do different types of diet that might be therapeutic for them for different conditions. Some people might exercise in a different way because their capacity is different than someone else. We can customize it, but that's a very right broad general thing when we say exercise, because there's the amount, the intensity, the frequency, the modality, how often, how much, and that's different for different people. So hopefully that helps you. Next question, VidNib says MTHFR mutation. I don't see that as a question, VidNibs. Maybe that's a comment. By the way, MTHFR mutation is not necessarily the cause of fatigue, okay? Because MTHFR, it's not a mutation, by the way. Okay, the proper way to say that is a SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism, which means just one sequence, one amino acid in a string of DNA sequences is replaced by a different amino acid. So it's not a mutation in the true sense of the word. It's just a substitution of one nucleotide. So essentially, the gene that codes for that particular enzyme, which is MTHFR enzyme, still works. It just doesn't work as efficiently. It doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. A lot of people, they read that wrong, and it actually causes a lot of problem because you have people out there, practitioners, who are promoting like, hey, let's do the genetic test and you'll take a supplement for every gene SNP that you have. That's exactly the wrong approach to take. And I have much to say about that, and we'll have future episodes on it. Alziri Fernandez, is there a list of functional doctor by specialty with reviews in the US? That I'm not aware of. That's what YouTube is for, right? That's what Google is for. You can do a search. I'm not aware of any directories, but I think, a good doctor would seek to educate the patient, right? And that's what we do. We educate our patients. And I educate so much is being repeated, right, every day to my patients. This is the reason why we created courses. This is why I'm speaking on YouTube. So I'm not just repeating. So then when patients come in, they've already heard me discuss these things so that when we recommend certain interventions, they're familiar with why we're doing something, which may run contrary to what you research on YouTube and Google and read from other places, because everything that I talk about is all based on peer-reviewed scientific research, right? Some is just clinical observation, but even the clinical observations are backed by research, right? If I see some pattern that's occurring with people, then I go dig into the scientific literature and see, is there signs that back what I'm seeing and what's the mechanism, so I can learn how to repeat the process and get repeatable result. Next is from Mary Agnes. Love this content. Awesome, Mary Agnes. And thank you for watching this. Appreciate you. All right, journey with me to better health. So glad you made a commitment to this platform. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yep, I'm committed to this year to dialing it way up. Elizabeth Humphrey, thank you. Good point. We always need to find a root cause. Awesome. So those are the questions. And thank you so much for joining me on this particular live stream. Again, some tech issues. I have a lot of things planned for this. As I figure out the tech, this is going to get even more dynamic, more engaging. I'm planning to do minimum one episode per week. We'll send out emails to those of you who are on my email list to notify you. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to get notified of next time I'm going to go live. The next time I'm going to go live will be this Friday, actually, because this is kind of like a practice run. I'm going to do it again on Friday to get more tech things figured out. So look forward to seeing you Friday. And again, subscribe to the channel and click the notification button so that next time we go live, you get notified. It'll be this Friday morning. Again, subscribe and get notified. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.